for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host Ian Gibson. How are you?
I'm doing very good.
Yeah, so this is our last preview show of the year, and lo and behold, it's for the college football national championship. So, normally we've done it where we just break down the games and we both talk about each game, but I decided that we're going to do something similar to what we did with the Heisman race between Aston Genty and Travis Hunter, where Ian took the case for Travis Hunter and I took the case for Aston Genty. This time around, we're going to do it for each of the teams. So Ian's going to take Ohio State and I'm going to take Notre Dame. With that being said, what we'll do is we'll give both arguments for it. We'll probably do some crosstalk as far as like what we think, and then we'll probably give our prediction at the end, and that's it. So it's going to be a brief show. It's real quick, but again, there's only one game to talk about, and so that's all we have. So yeah. Let's do it. So Ian, I want to let you go first. Go ahead and give your thoughts on Ohio State.
Yes, so Ohio State in beginning of the year, and we've seen it especially with this playoffs, they are one of, if not the most talented team in the country. That was never a doubt, was they had the talent to win a championship. All the pieces were there. They just had to put them together. They just have athletes galore that it's honestly a criminal with how speedy the team is. And it's like a two-headed attack because both sides of the ball in offense. If they want to run the ball, you have Travion Henderson, who is as fast as they come. And if you stop him, they can easily rotate in Junkins to break off runs and, more of a power back and still almost as fast. Just Henderson's got that explosive ability. But really the, main core of this has been the receiving. Ohio State's known as wide receiver U, and this year's no exception because, you have Jeremiah Smith, who's just been absolutely electric this year, and he's really had a coming out party during the Rose Bowl. And again, if you stop him, you got to deal with Buka, and if you stop him, you got to deal with Tate, and if you stop him, you got to deal with the tight end Scott Jr. This is how they beat you. Is they will just flat out find the mismatch. They will try to move around the positions to create mismatches of having a linebacker on a receiver or having a corner guard a tight end. That's what Chip Kelly's offense has been doing. It's a lot of moving pieces to create the mismatches. Kind of like in basketball, you want this, advantages there. And then they're just going to find whoever's faster than the other guy, and they're going to beat you. It's just flat out as simple as that. They've done it to Tennessee, they've done it to Oregon, and they did it to Texas, where they just said, we are going to out-athlete you this game, either through swing passes or slant routes or just flat out go routes, or we're going to beat you on the ground on these halfback dive plays. And still, this is the scary thing. That's not even the best unit. The defense of Ohio State has been insane. They have been on another level. They've had some, spotty moments, but there's only been one game this year. One game. They gave up more than 20 points in the regular season, and that was against Oregon in the loss at Eugene. They gave up 31 in that one. Other than that, they have held teams to either less than 20, and in the playoff, the only team to break the 20-point mark was Oregon with 21. Held Texas in check, held Oregon in check before it was over, held Tennessee. The defense has been as consistent comes. On Ohio State's worst day on defense, the best you can get is maybe 24 points. And that's scary because with how good that offense is, that might not be enough. That probably won't be enough. And we've seen in these playoffs where the offense, not in the playoffs, but in the regular season, maybe offense wasn't clicking. The Nebraska game, the Penn State game, in those wins, but the defense just held them in check. And the Michigan game would be another example too. But it is really the most complete team of the playoff. I said that they're one of the most complete teams in the playoffs, and they're just have athletes galore to beat you on both offense and in defense.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I think everyone coming into this year knew that Ohio State was the most talented team in the country. Like it was like bar none almost. And maybe like Georgia was maybe second as far as overall talent. But yeah, I mean, you got playmakers all over the field. The defense is, you know, there's stars all over, and then the offense. I think the biggest weakness though for Ohio State is Will Howard, and I think that's something that Notre Dame can take advantage of, and I'll talk about that in a second. But did you have anything to add before I jump into Notre Dame?
It's just the thing to note is Ohio State still has not only the number one defense in the Big Ten, but still in the country. And they do rank, I think it was 30th nationally in total offense, but it's still a top 5 defense in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And the thing with Will Howard, the thing I will add is when you have that many good receivers, you don't need to have an elite quarterback. And Will Howard is like good enough. Literally, all he has to tell him, if I'm Jeremiah Smith, I'm pretty much telling him, just throw the ball. I'll find a way to catch it. And that literally happened in the Oregon game. Like Jeremiah probably in the huddle was like, just throw it over here. I'm going to catch it. I don't care if there's 3 guys on me. That's how good the wide receiver core is that it can complement maybe, behind the back throws or, maybe bad throws, because they are so fast, they can close in on the ball, and they're so athletic that they can, moss the, smaller cornerbacks. So even if you're not elite at quarterback, it's a compliment to have all these wide receivers to bail you out.
Okay, so let me jump into what I feel like with Notre Dame. So, they obviously have that notorious loss to Northern Illinois, but I mean, Ohio State has a loss to Michigan, which had a pretty subpar year considering they were the national champion last year. And I think they finished like 8-5, maybe somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. I'm not looking it up right now, but they did also have a loss against Oregon, which they did avenge when they obliterated them in the Rose Bowl, Ohio State. But as far as Notre Dame, the rest of their games, they looked really good most of the year. They beat a decent Louisville team. They beat a decent Georgia Tech team. Granted, the Georgia Tech team was without Haynes King in that game. In the playoff, they beat Indiana pretty handedly. They beat a very good Georgia team, and then beat obviously one of the best teams in the country in Penn State, who's been one of the better teams all year. With some of what Notre Dame brings to the table, the passing game is not one of them because they're very lacking as far as a passing attack, and that's probably their biggest weakness. And that may be a problem in this game because Ohio State is so good against the pass. But I will counter, as far as their weakness when it comes to the passing attack, their running attack is top tier. Basically number 3 overall yards per rush and 12th for rush yards per game. So yes, they lack in a lot of aspects offensively with passing, but they still have a high completion percentage at 66.5% pass completions, which is 18th in the country. But yards per pass is very low, 7.1. It's 78th in the country. Pass yards per game, 194.3. It's 100th in the country. But I think with Jeremiah Love, with Price, with Aeneas Williams, I think they have the 3-headed monster to be able to make a difference on the ground. And Riley Leonard is that ace in the hole with when things break down. He can get yards when needed. He did that against Penn State. He does that quite a bit. He did that on that 3rd down against Georgia that pretty much sealed that game for them. And, I feel like that'll be the same thing. I know that Ohio State's defense is, as far as rush defense, is definitely one of the best in the country because their yards per rush they allow is 2.7, which is second best in the country, and rush yards per game is 90.3, so it's third in the country. But I still feel like that they will be able to move the ball on the ground. It's almost like a what is it? Immovable object
Yeah.
and impossible force or whatever the saying is. So that might be something there. But then again, if you're looking at a weakness for Ohio State on when they're on the offensive side of the ball, they don't run the ball a ton, and they're not one of the better teams in the country as far as rushing yards per game. But that's because they probably don't rush it that much. They really do pass the ball a ton. They are one of the better passing teams, obviously, in the country with that bevy of receivers and tight ends. You know, I think if Notre Dame's defense, if they can get back in the backfield of Ohio State and get some pressure on Will Howard, one, get sacks because they're very good at getting sacks. Notre Dame is 28th in the country in getting sacks. But Ohio State is very good at protecting the quarterback. They're ninth in the country at protecting the quarterback as far as QB sacks. And but if they can force some pressure on Howard, what they do a lot of Notre Dame is they create a lot of interceptions. They're fifth in the country in creating interceptions, which Ohio State is 45th in making interceptions. So right now, Will Howard is has 10 interceptions. Last couple of games that I was looking at for him, Indiana game has an interception. Michigan game he has 2. Tennessee, he had 1. Didn't have one against Oregon, and then he had one against Texas as well. So he has been prone to throw an interception here or two. And, I feel like Notre Dame is capable of creating the turnovers there for that. Um, you know, this game is going to be tough for Notre Dame. I don't think, I'm leaning right now, maybe not giving them the prediction because I don't think they're going to win it. But I think if they can stay in the game defensively, if they can keep it to like what it was like in the Penn State game, if it's like a 10-3 game at halftime, that plays in their favor because they run the ball so well. It kind of wears on teams as you get going for the rest of it. So I feel like Notre Dame got better in that second half. In the Georgia game, it really turned on like a couple of plays at the end of the second quarter and then into the third quarter. So it was really like quick to change around how things were going. And, Notre Dame outplayed Penn State in that second half, and they were the more dominant team. And I think they can do that here. Ohio State is a bevy of talent, and they are quick to score. That Travion Henderson score was like 10, 15 seconds or whatever it was, and they completely changed the trajectory of that game because of that big score. So I can see Ohio State moving the ball, but I don't know. I just feel like Notre Dame has a good enough defense to be able to stay in this game. And if they're staying in this game, Riley Leonard has proven to be able to make enough plays to make a difference and to get them out on top. And he did that against Penn State. He did it against Georgia. I think he can do it again here against Ohio State. I was not a believer of Notre Dame for a long time. I think I always used to critique them, as far as just how overblown they were because of the media hype they used to get. But this is a different Notre Dame team. Marcus Freeman is not the same coach that Brian Kelly was or any of the other guys that were there for the last 30 years. Marcus Freeman teaches toughness. And I think that's the difference with this team is that both the offense and defensive lines are ferocious. and they have made a difference in how this team plays, and it's not just that the line play, all of the defense for Notre Dame is tenacious, and they are, they're definitely their strongest suit, and it shows. Like Marcus Freeman comes from that background, was a linebacker at Ohio State, and he's going to prove it again. I think they stay in this game. I don't know if they win, but I think they can stay in this game into the fourth quarter. Okay, so do you have any crosstalk as far as Notre Dame you want to interject?
So the one thing with Notre Dame is the way their offense is going to have to beat this Ohio State defense. And we said the same thing about Texas. You've got to be averaging at least 4 yards of play.
Yeah.
At least, and Notre Dame has done very good with defenses as good as Ohio State, Georgia especially, and Penn State. If you can get it to third and less than 2 yards or 3 yards, you're in business, because Riley Leonard has been very hard to stop. Love even harder. So it is paramount that Notre Dame does not waste plays, and you're at 2nd and 10 and you have to get that many yards. How they start on first down is really going to dictate how well the drives go, because if you're in 2nd and manageable and then 3rd and short, you got Ohio State right where you want them, because as good as they are, it's a lot to ask from a team to stop them when it's 2 yards to go for a first down. And that's something Notre Dame has done very well with either Riley Leonard, giving it to Love on these swing routes. That is something Notre Dame can do. And for Ohio State, on the other hand, is just simply plugging up the middle and forcing them to stretch out to the outside. If you can have your linemen squeeze into the inside face and have, the linebackers to the outside, that is going to be how you stop them. You have to bottleneck Notre Dame because they have stretched out these linebackers and corners to get these big runs. There's going to have to be a way for Ohio State to get into the backfield, or at least very simply find a way to contain and set the edge for Notre Dame to make sure they are not getting those positive yards. Passing wise, again, it's going to have to be high percentage throws. You do not want it to be a jump ball with that secondary with Ohio State. And same thing with for Ohio State's offense. Find the open guy. Do not force plays. The last thing you want to do is give Notre Dame momentum, because they do have that turnover margin, and they can burn you really bad if they capitalize on the turnovers. That's the one dangerous thing with Notre Dame. If they get more turnovers, they're most likely going to score on all of them. There's no way you can find a way to stop them and get them out of the end zone.
Yeah, 100%. And as far as third downs, Ohio State is 50th in the country as far as completing them or converting them at 41%. And Notre Dame, conversely, on defense is 4th in the country. So, Notre Dame might have a ace in the hole there where they can hopefully get some stops on third down. And that honestly is what kept Texas in the game, was they were able to get off the field a bit, enough to keep them in the game. Because if you remember in that Texas-Ohio State game, it was getting to the point where it almost got out of control because Ohio State was driving. And the other thing is Ohio State shot themselves in the foot in that game a bit, where there was some bad penalties that really kind of changed those drives. So, if that's the case here, Notre Dame also is about average with penalties. Ohio State, I'm trying to think what they are. Let's see where they're at. They're actually fairly good at committing less penalties. So that was kind of an anomaly in the game that they created so many penalties in the Texas game. But who knows? I mean, obviously these refs are looking to call, fair game, we're hoping, but sometimes they come into play and they can change how things are going. It's an SEC officiating crew, so hopefully they're up to snuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Notre Dame hasn't won a championship since 1988, and that's 37 years. So it's been a very long time since Notre Dame has been on top of the college football world. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that Ohio State's probably going to win. Like I said, I think that Notre Dame is going to stay in this game up until the very end, but I like Notre Dame or Ohio State to maybe have a late score, and then Notre Dame is driving, and Ohio State gets a stop. But I want to hear your prediction on your score.
Yeah, so doing the homework on this one, Ohio State and Notre Dame have played 8 times collectively, and Ohio State holds the edge 6 wins to Notre Dame's 2 wins. The last time Notre Dame won was in 1936, and that was a 7-2 victory. And for my way back hockey reference, the Red Wings just won their first Stanley Cup that year.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was. So, and since then, they played in 1995 and occasionally through the Fiesta Bowl and just matchups. Obviously, they played the last 2 years, and Ohio State edged them out in both games. And for me, I don't see Ohio State just is not going to be able to out-athlete Notre Dame. Notre Dame can play keep away all they want, and they can try to get them in these low percentage, but that defense is that tough. I feel like they'll make enough stops, and Ohio State just has way too many explosive players. I think the Buckeyes get their national championship, and I'm going to go with a 28 to 18 sort of win for you.
28 to 18. Yeah. It's funny because if they win this, they would have won in the first iteration of the expanded playoff to 4 teams, and then now the expanded playoff to 12.
So you bet their Ohio State president's going to be like, hey, let's do 16 next year.
Yeah.
So then we can, I guess it's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Ohio State's going to win, but I feel like it's going to be close. And I feel like because Notre Dame's defense is so good, all the way through it. Like their linebacking play is great. Those guys are fast. The DBs cover very well. They had a little easier path against Penn State because Penn State, their wide receivers had 0 catches, but that could have been largely because Notre Dame's coverage was better. But I still was not a big fan of Penn State's wide receivers. But no, I feel like if anything's going to happen, they're going to have to really focus on Jeremiah Smith again, which, Texas did, and Texas still lost. But I think that gave Texas a chance because they took out Jeremiah Smith from that game. And I think Notre Dame can do the same thing. I think they're good as a whole. I think they should focus on that maybe, though, too. Maybe that's more of what they should do, because if they do focus on just Jeremiah Smith, maybe someone then will bite them even worse. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because it's tough to nail down what's a good strategy here because there's so many weapons on Ohio State, and they can take it to the house at any second. Like example of Travion Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins is just as capable of doing the same thing, and so is Abuku, and all those guys. They're all very, very good and very talented and very speedy. Again, I like Notre Dame's defense enough, though, and that's why I'm not giving up on them and just saying this is just going to be Ohio State blowout. But it could be. It really could be, because they blew out Oregon in that game, and Oregon at the time was viewed as the best team in the country for almost the entire year, and Ohio State dominated them. I'm going to go with Notre Dame losing. I'm going to say it's similar to Ian's 28 for Ohio State, but I'm going to say Notre Dame 24. So at 28-24, like I said, Ohio State scores last. Notre Dame gets the ball with a little bit of time left, and then Ohio State makes a stop. Okay, that is the show, everyone. That is the last preview we have for the year. So, after Monday, which Monday is the last show that we have, we're taping this on Monday night the week before, but this will show up on Wednesday, at the normal airing time. But Monday will be when we have our last show. There won't be a show Sunday. Monday, we're going to start probably I don't know. I don't think we'll be streaming the whole game. I think probably about halftime we'll show up. I don't know, it depends. Whatever you feel, Ian. If it's a blowout, we may not even be that long of a show.
Mhm.
But whatever, we'll figure it out as it gets to the day and as we feel. Because I don't we can't do a 3-hour show.
No.
I'm not doing a 3-hour show. I don't know how people do that shit. Oops, I shouldn't have said
Yeah.
word. Sorry. But no, so we'll be on Monday during the game, more than likely at halftime into the end of it, and then we'll do a brief recap, and then that'll be it. That'll be the show. We'll do I'll do a rewind for the whole season, put that video out, but that'll be it until August. So again, I want to thank everyone for being so helpful and subscribing and commenting and sharing, and literally my mom shares every time the new episode is out on Facebook. So I really appreciate all the support from everybody. So you can catch us at haterradio.com for all of our socials. Type in Hater Radio, and then it comes in on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Instagram, X, Twitter, all those. Ian, what are your socials before we go?
Yeah, at Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, it's at G_Gator_G.
G5 Gibson. That's what I remember. That's what the name is. So, and you said you were going to talk about, what were you going to bring up when we do the live show at the end on Monday?
Depending on the game, but I could do give me a state and I can tell you every every Division 1 team in there, and including Group of 5. Or you give me a conference, I could probably do all of them, and I could do every national champion I think up into the 80s, including the dual ones.
Yeah, if the game's getting slow or it maybe is a blowout, we might do that. So, all right, look forward to the show on Monday. That is the last show, and then we're done for the year, like I said. So, thank you for everything, guys, and we'll talk to you on Monday.